how many dates we've been on. So I told her some of that information, and I also told her that like this one particular person was crazy, and I didn't really want to have anything to do with them. And then
Yes, it was this lady who had about 25,000 kids. Okay.
stop. Hey guys, welcome back. As you know, we're in the car.
Yes.
It's Charles and Z. And first off, we want to thank everyone for making our channel so incredibly successful in just the past week. We went from 900 subscribers last Friday to today's Wednesday, and we have 2,100 subscribers.
Crazy.
And
For us, it's a big deal. Yes.
yeah, that's a big deal for us. We've been going at this for like 14 months now, and that's because of you guys. So first off, we want to give a big shout out to you, our audience. Thank you so much for subscribing. And what we're going to talk about today is we're going to talk about our personalities and how they're different and what works between us. So the reason this came up is because at my job, I just had to take a personality test. And what it did, well, it's not really a test, it's an evaluation. It tells you what type of personality you are. And what it came up with for me is it said that I'm a mediator. What does that mean? A mediator is someone who is primarily concerned with finding consensus, finding agreement between people. For somebody with my personality type, I'm not so much like dig my heels in the ground to prove a point. What I am is somebody who tries to take one person and another person and find common ground between them. That's just the way that I operate.
Right. And so with all of that, it made me think how different we are in personalities and kind of how that caused a little bit of conflict, but how we've been able to navigate through that, right? And so it brought me back to when Charles and I first started dating. This was back in 2020, the fall of 2020. We went on our first road trip to, I think it was Gatlinburg,
Yeah.
right? And dating, we're still trying to figure out, where we were with, in the relationship. Were we like girlfriend and boyfriend or what it was?
And I was dating a couple other people off and on at that time.
He was, and I needed him to know that he had a good thing. And I don't know how it came up.
We were on the way back,
We were on the way back home,
driving.
and I was like, are you talking to anybody else? So it was pretty much a gist of it.
No, actually, the way
How'd it come up?
The way it came up is my phone. I got a text message on my phone, and I think that you asked who it was, and I said, "Oh, it's that lady so and so." I had told her about some of the other people, in general, like what
You
type
did.
of people they
You
are
did.
and how many dates we've been on. So I had told her some of that information, and I also told her that like this one particular person was crazy, and I didn't really want to have anything to do with them. And then
Yes, it was this lady who had about 25,000 kids, okay?
stop.
And I wasn't mad. He was very honest, and we weren't in a committed relationship at that time, right? So he was very open and honest in regards to who he was dating. And I think so was I. I don't think I was dating a lot of people by choice, but he was very open. And at that point, I felt like, no. So what happened, he was telling me he wasn't really that interested, right?
Yeah, I wasn't. She was crazy. Like we had not. Me and that lady had not actually been out on a date. We'd just been like talking and like texting, and I realized that she was kind of over the deep end when she starts talking about like how great we're gonna work out long term and like I'm perfect for her and all this crazy stuff, and like she's got all these like a bajillion adopted kids. It was just like kind of a lot of warning signs.
Not to cut you off though, but to kind of interject there. And so my thought process is, okay, so you're saying she's crazy and all of this, well then tell her you are not interested. What is so difficult? And so I think this shows a little bit about Charles' personality, because what was your concern, or why didn't you just tell her it's a no-go?
Well, instead of saying like, hey, I don't think this is going to work, I just kind of, maybe I went to like the sort of long drawn out ghosting route and like not returning messages because we hadn't even been on a date. So I just didn't think it was necessary to have a confrontation.
How would that have been a confrontation?
Well, in the end, it's what I did because you dug your heels in and you're like, why don't you tell her that you're not interested?
No, but you didn't answer my question. Why did you feel, or how did you see that or interpret it being a confrontation, just being honest or blunt with someone?
Well, because, in general, I don't like delivering bad news. And I was kind of hoping, she's out there dating, she's doing her thing. Maybe if I just become like a non-producing lead for long enough, then she's going to find somebody else to go crazy about.
So two things. One, did you not think that would hurt her feelings, right? You just ghosting?
Maybe I was kind of hoping her feelings would change.
Okay. And then two, at that point, you knew that you had a good thing, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So if you knew you had a good thing, out of respect, I mean, I get it, right?
I mean, we'd
He's the
never been
mediator.
on a date. We had just been chit-chatting.
No. But for me, though, you dated me, though. Your turn, my love.
Yeah.
And I'm saying you knew at that time, because we did this trip and,
Yeah.
out of respect for me, why wouldn't you just let her know? Who cares what her feelings were? You're being honest, right?
But I hadn't responded to her in weeks.
So was that the appropriate way to go about things?
Probably not.
And see, I think this gives a really good representation of Charles' demeanor, because I think part of him, I feel part of you didn't want to hurt her feelings, right?
Sure.
And so I feel like sometimes you use the word confrontation, but that's not necessarily a correct word to use.
Whereas I feel that you, different from me, sometimes seek out confrontation for confrontation's sake.
Really?
Yeah, and I feel like sometimes you try to put me in a position where I'm like your henchman.
Okay, so tell me more. Give me an example of that.
Give you an example of that?
Yes.
Okay, I'm trying to think of a specific situation where that's happened, but frequently you'll be like, I don't like this, and why don't you call them and say something about it?
So to close that whole situation with the lady with 25,000 kids, in that situation,
I was already over it.
No, I know, but in that situation, I think it's more important to be honest. And if I'm serious about you, respecting your feelings, I would have no problem telling that individual in a nice way, not to be rude, that, hey, I'm just not interested, right? And I get it. I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. And some people get more attached very quickly. But I think it's better to be honest in a tactful way from early on. But let me give you another instance of where our personalities differ a little bit. So as you guys know, we were selling our home. We sold it. Yay!
We did.
More about that later. It's been a struggle, okay? The transition.
That's also why I'm looking a little rough, because I can't find my razor.
Oh, I love your roughness though. And so in the process of selling our home or our property, we have what's called accessory property, right? Or you want to explain that, Charles?
It's a second house on the property where my dad lives.
Yes. And, when you're selling your home, you need to have it smelling good and, top shape, of course. But, we ended up with a little bit of a snafu. You want to kind of explain that?
Yeah, so, okay, this has been something that I've dealt with for 40 years.
Okay.
So my dad, bless his heart, likes smoking cigars. And the house that I lived in with him growing up, my parents are divorced and I live with my dad. And the house that I lived in with him growing up, he smoked inside, and I always smelled like smoke. When people came over to our house, they ended up smelling like smoke when they left, because the smell gets into the walls, it gets into the carpet, it gets into everything. And so, that's been a recurring issue that I've dealt with. So relationships where I've been in the past, My dad always like, oh, bring so and so over to the house, but then like, when they come over to the house, there's the smell, and they're always like, I don't want to go back to your dad's house. That's horrendous. And so, I've always ended up being caught in the middle of those things, because being a good son, I've got to see my dad, and he wants to be a good host or whatever,
So what
but then there's the
happened?
smell. But let me go on about it though. So part of my dad's personality is he doesn't believe that there's any offensive smell. So he'll tell you up and down there isn't a smell, or yeah, there's a smell, but it's a good smell, and it's a smell that people should like. And my dad is very one specific minded, and so this is something that this has been a sticking point, and probably a lot of the reason of my mediator personality, by the way. Anyway, so he's moved in, on our property. He has a house there. He has not gotten that house quite as smelly as the house that I grew up in, but there's still a smell to it. And so when we get ready to sell the house, we have to do something to get rid of the smell. And at first, there was resistance. Like, the question was, how do we, tell my dad, we've got to make your house not smell this way, because we've got to sell the house, and people find the way that your house smells offensive to somebody who refuses to believe that there actually is a problem.
I didn't think there was a question of how to. So that's where the different personalities come into play. But I'll let you finish.
Yeah. So the way that I brought it up to him is, I'll be honest, I kind of laid it off a little bit. I said, hey, our realtors come over and they say that there's a smell here. There's something that has to be addressed for us to list the house. And so I guess we've got to deal with it. And I never really took responsibility for saying your house stinks and we got to fix it.
And so that brings me to, we had our house on the market for quite a bit of time. And it came one day, I remember we were at the beach, and we just had a showing, and the realtor called, and I was speaking to her. I'm like, what was the feedback? Because she was like, they just left. And she said, pretty much, they said the guest house, the accessory house, stinks. And I remember I told Charles, right? And prior to this conversation with the realtor, I said, hey, Charles, you have to talk to your dad, right? It's your place. It's not my place. It's, more appropriate that you speak to your dad, and not just be saying, you don't have to say your house stinks, but hey, it has an odor, or we need to take some steps to rectify this, because it was a clear smoke smell that a lot of people just don't like. And it was starting to become an obstacle to us selling our home.
Yeah, it was an issue because, from the moment that we listed our house and we started showings, it was such an effort. Every time that we showed the house, we had to get the house straightened up for a couple of hours. We had to figure out where to take all 6 people that live in the house, so they're not there. And it was such a big deal, and we had to show our house like 15 or 20 times before we finally got it sold.
So I'm just like, let's get this house sold. And so in my mind, when I'm telling Charles this, he's like, well, I don't know. Why don't you tell? I'm like, it's not my place. It's not appropriate. I'm leaving it to you because it's your dad. You have a good relationship with them. And he's like, well, what do you want me to say? I'm like, I just want you to talk to him, communicate, right? You don't have to be rude. Being honest or blunt doesn't mean that you have to do it in a rude manner, but it's preventing us from selling our home. And it finally took me telling Charles about that conversation with the realtor and our house in the market for a little bit more of time for him to understand and take the steps to tell your dad. And yes, I think your dad had a little bit of a negative response, but I think he got over it pretty quickly. And we got to making the guest house smelling like cookies and all kinds of stuff. And guess what? We sold our home. I mean, that and dropping the price a little bit, but we sold our home.
We
right?
did. After I went over and scrubbed every flat surface with vinegar.
Yes, but I mean, I think that was a prime example of where I'm of the type, hey, it needs to be said. And to be honest about me, sometimes I'm like, I don't care whose feelings are going to be hurt. Let's be objective. Let's get it done. And I think Charles, with his kind of mediator personality, well, he wants to appease everybody. And I honestly don't think you can always do that. But I say this, though, now being aware that I don't think Charles is always wrong in his approach, right? Sometimes I think I can do a better job on my mediator techniques, right? Trying to take everyone's feelings into account.
Well, I think we balance each other out, though.
Yeah.
And, you know,
Let us know, for you guys who are in relationships, and that's not only that could be friendships, that can be with your significant other. Let us know about your personality differences and how you've navigated that. And as always, because you guys have been doing amazing, remember to like and subscribe down below. On that note, we will talk to you guys later.